Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video review. This time we talk about some newly announced things from Marvel Legends. Marvel Legends just recently showed a lot of new figures that they put on pre-order, but they also made a couple of announcements. Now, most of these don't have photos. Really, the only photo that we have is this, but I like to just kind of speak about the announcements that were made and do a little bit of speculation. So, two announcements. One is that there is a Haslab project on the way for Marvel Legends, and this is the preview shot for it. And then there is another announcement that 2021 will see Marvel's Legends' biggest Build-A-Figure ever. So that is quite exciting. I do have a couple of ideas or theories about what Build-A-Figure they could be using, so I'll go over that in a moment. But first of all, with the Haslab project, we have a leg here for what that project will be. It is huge, of course. As you can see, this is massive, and it's rather clear what it is. Now, from what I'm aware, they didn't say specifically what character it is, but it's pretty common knowledge for multiple reasons. First of all, just why it looks like it. It's a character that would make sense to be this big, and with the size comparison figures in front of it, it makes sense as well. But obviously a Sentinel from X-Men. This will be extremely cool, and it'll be interesting to see how tall it is. Obviously, it's not going to be like 1-in-1 scale, like life scale, at least to a human. It'll probably be less than that, but it doesn't look like it's going to be too far off, to be quite honest. I think that this might be a half scale to a human, maybe, which is kind of nuts, but it is quite cool. As you can see, obviously just an unpainted leg, but it does dwarf the regular figures, with those figures standing in front, and it's hard to tell how far in front of the leg that they're standing, but at the very least, if you just want to say that they're standing directly in front of it, then the just a regular size figure like Jubilee doesn't quite come up to the calf, so that is quite impressive. But this leg might be a little bit further behind them too. It's hard to tell. So this is going to be a massive project. Now, the way that the Haslab projects kind of work, because they've done this before, they've made the sail barge for Star Wars, Jabba's sail barge, and then they've also made Unicron from Transformers. So I like that they're kind of hitting all the kind of staples for their Hasbro properties. But now that we're at Marvel, basically what happens is they'll show the full product, and essentially, from what I understand, I haven't physically done it, but from what I understand, they have a goal to hit. Let's say there's 5,000. So their goal is that they need 5,000 people to either say that they're going to buy it or to physically pre-order it. I'm not quite sure if you do have to physically pre-order it and put down the money, or if it's just like stating that I will pre-order it once this goes on pre-order. But it's essentially like they have to get a certain amount of people to promise that they're going to buy it, and then if they do hit that number, then they'll fully put it into production and make it and release it. So it's a really interesting concept. I like it. I think it's cool, and it allows them to do crazy projects that would never be done, under normal circumstances, because they're obviously not going to be releasing figures or products this big into regular retail stores. And then they're also allowing the, consumers to actually judge if it's worth making or not, too. So I think that's quite cool. Personally, for me, if I plan to get it, I would really have to see the full product. I'd have to see the height. I'd have to see the price. Those would be the three big things. However, I would most likely not get it, I think, just because it's going to be so massive. I could obviously, display it in my collection room, but I wouldn't really be able to display it in a way that would make it worth having. Like, I would really, literally just have to put this like in the middle of the room and create a whole diorama of the X-Men fighting him to make it like totally worth it. But just for space reasons, he would just kind of have to be alone, on against a wall, and then therefore not really worth it, I think. Nonetheless, though, I think that it does look awesome. It's going to be expensive, though, and I can't wait to see the final product. Now, secondly, with their announcement of the biggest Build-A-Figure ever coming, there's a couple of different options here. So their previous biggest Build-A-Figure, now, and when they say biggest Build-A-Figure, they could just be referring to when they revitalized the Marvel Legends series in, I think it was 2013? No, 20 12, I think, is when they kind of brought it back with the Terrac series. Now, they could just be stating that this is going to be the biggest Build-A-Figure since that series, when they brought back Marvel Legends. But if they are talking about literally their biggest Build-A-Figure from them doing, Marvel Legends in general, in the lifetime of Marvel Legends, then it would be bigger than Fin Fang Foom, which is the previous biggest Build-A-Figure currently. And I just looked it up. Fin Fang Foom is 32 inches tall, so he is massive. That is very large. That's larger than most Hot Toys. That's larger than most large Hot Toys. So that is quite impressive. If they're literally going to do a Build-A-Figure that's more than 32 inches tall, I will be very happy. Now, if that's not the case, if they literally just mean the biggest Build-A-Figure from when they started the Marvel Legends series back up, then it would be bigger than I think Hulkbuster is their biggest Build-A-Figure. So it would still be large, but it certainly wouldn't be anywhere near larger than Fin Fang Foom. But since, from what I'm aware, they didn't specify, I would think that they do mean biggest Build-A-Figure ever. So basically what I think could be the Build-A-Figures. It could be another Fin Fang Foom, but I think specifically a movie version. Who knows if he will be, making his movie debut, but with Shang-Chi coming out next year, the year that they're promising this Build-A-Figure will be released, then that would make sense. So it could be a movie version of him. It could be Galactus. Now, the reason that I'm not sure about Galactus is that although, he would need to be a huge Build-A-Figure, it would feel very weird for them to make a huge, in-scale Sentinel and then make Galactus much smaller, Obviously, there's no way to make Galactus in scale, just because he's so incredibly large. But it would just kind of feel a little weird to come out in the same year with a Sentinel and Galactus and have the Sentinel be larger than Galactus. But with Galactus being such a popular character, and it's been so long since they've done a Build-A-Figure for him, that could be the case as well. And then my last guess is also a movie one from the Eternals. Now that movie is no longer coming out this year, it is going to be released in 2021. The Celestials, which, has kind of been hinted at before. I mean, the Build-A-Figure could even be a comic version of Ego as well. I highly doubt that they're going to come out with a big planet, but it could be a Celestial, so that would make sense as well. Again, no, those would be absolutely massive, so it'll be interesting, and it might not be any of these, but these would be my three best guesses, either movie versions of the Marvel movies that are coming out next year, or Galactus. I really, tried to think what other kind of comic characters they would do, and it's hard to think of one that would need to be bigger than 32 inches, to be honest. There are certainly a lot more, but even like all the Hulk size characters, there's a lot of Marvel characters in the Hulk range, Hulk, Juggernaut, Blob, all of them, which are, very large, but they would not need to be over 32 inches. So it is hard to try to figure out what it could be. These would be my three best guesses, though. I'm excited, as Build-A-Figures are my favorite part of Marvel Legends and collecting Marvel Legends in general. The idea of getting the largest one ever is super exciting. I do hope that it's a good character. Personally, if I were to pick the character, the Celestials from right now, I don't really have any interest in. So I'm hoping that it's not them. Obviously, once I see the movie, that could change. But right now, I don't have much of an interest. A new Galactus would be very cool. But a movie version of Fin Fang Foom, if he is even in the movie, who knows if he will actually make an appearance. There's been no announcement for it. But if he is in the movie, I think a movie version of him would be very cool, especially since I don't have the comic version of that Build-A-Figure either, which I'd like. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the possibilities for Hasbro's upcoming largest Build-A-Figure ever, as well as kind of going over some of the aspects of the new Haslab product in development, being a Marvel Legends Sentinel. So let me know what you guys think of these new large announcements. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the price of Sentinel and the possibility, or the which character is going to be the largest Build-A-Figure ever. I'd love to hear it. I'd also love to know if they are intending this new Build-A-Figure to be several different figures. And what I mean by that is instead of their normal 6 to 7 figure, series, if they're going to make this one insane, where maybe it's a double series, similar to what Green Lantern the movie did, where they kind of released one wave which gave you the Build-A-Figures for half of the Build-A-Figure, and then they released a secondary wave that gave you the other pieces for that Build-A-Figure. So it'll be interesting to see if it's literally just they're going to keep it at the normal rate where it's going to be 7 figures to buy, and then the Build-A-Figure will be the largest one, or if they do plan to make it something where it's like 12 figures, and then once you get them all, then you build the largest Build-A-Figure. It'll be interesting. Nonetheless, though, very excited for the Build-A-Figure announcement. Again, let me know what you guys think, and thanks so much for watching.